Let's roll. I hope I don't mess up.
Me and you.
When you were in grade school, did you ever feel like learning was just something the teachers taught to help you memorize what was on the test, a standardized test? Today I'm going to persuade you how standardized testing is bad and how it should no longer be required. When I was in grade school, I remember the teachers were always stressed out about the tax test. But they were not worried about if we were learning with the material. They were more worried about if we were memorizing the things we needed on the test in order to pass. First, I'm going to tell you how standardized testing does not allow teachers to teach what students need to learn. They just teach you what you need to memorize. Secondly, I'm going to talk about how standardized testing does more harm than good for teachers and also students. Lastly, I'm going to talk about how just because you might be done with standardized testing does not mean you should stop being aware of what's going on in the school, because standardized testing will come back to you if you have kids, grandkids, nieces, nephews. Standardized testing does not allow teachers to actually teach. Instead, it makes them teach stuff that the kids need to memorize in order to pass their standardized test. When I was in school, I always felt like teachers were just teaching us things we needed to remember to pass our test. They just told us the material that we needed to memorize in order to pass our test. But after we'd taken the test for the year, teachers were actually able to teach us things we need in everyday life when we were going to need to in order stuff we needed to do forever. According to Pros and Cons Standardized Testing by Columbia University, standardized testing does not allow teachers to teach. Standardized testing only allows teachers to teach to the test. The university shares that teachers are pressured for their students to pass, so it makes learning boring and lacks creativeness. The university also shares more about this subject. Did you know that teachers feel pressured about needing to get their kids to pass? They neglect to teach their students skills that they need to learn beyond the test. According to an article, I needed standardized testing harmful to education health, published by Neil. The article talks how standardized testing is harmful to students and stressful on teachers and students as well. The article shows low achieving students seem to have harmful effects when it comes to standardized testing. Since lower achieving students already have problems or their disabilities make learning harder, the anxiety the test puts on these types of students makes their scores lower than they should be, because the student feels more pressured, and so when they're pressured and they're already having trouble learning and they go to take the test, it becomes more stressful, so their scores are actually becoming lower than if they weren't so pressured to take the test to begin with. The effects that have been reported by teachers from kids from the stress on test days. Some teachers have reported their kids running to the bathroom and throwing up because they were so nervous about taking the test. I remember we had 2 kids in our grade that would pass out the week of tests because they were so stressful leading up to the test. Just because most of us are done with standardized testing does not mean it is not making an impact on us still. We should not stop carrying out the problem, because if testing continues, our kids will run into these same problems we have. Standardized testing does not seem to be going away anytime soon. Saying that we need to make sure that we're keeping up with the changes being made on the test. Us as citizens have a right to make sure the government keeps the rules and regulations feasible, such as the students' amount of time they're getting to take on the test and how many questions they need in order to pass. If we do not stay on this issue of standardized testing, our kids, nephews, nieces, and even grandchildren might have these same worries we do. First, I told you how standardized testing does not allow teachers to actually teach. Secondly, I told you how standardized testing is harmful to not only students, but teachers. Lastly, I told you about how we need to make sure we stay on the problems that standardized testing brings to our community and our schools. I highly encourage everyone to stay updated on these problems that are being caused by standardized testing. Thank you.